Yes, you mentioned the liquidity of Euro debt markets. Do you think this is a liquidity problem rather than a solvency problem right now?
Well, I would say a couple of things about that, sir. One, the problem that we, the Federal Reserve, are addressing is the potential emergence of serious liquidity problems within the European financial system, which could in turn have impact on our own financial system. There are obviously questions within Europe about the sustainability of the debt situations of some of the sovereigns, beginning with Greece. So
yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. Adding additional liquidity into the European market, does that make it more likely or less likely that these excessive debt issues are going to be addressed?
I wouldn't say, Mr. Royce, that the drawing on a swap line makes it any more or less likely that the fiscal problems as such are going to be addressed. Remember, these are temporary lines that unwind. Yeah. They're only meant to stop the very bad kinds of things from happening. And
but at times I wonder if you remove the urgency, can you create moral hazard? And let me go down this line of argument with you for a minute, Daniel. The more leeway we give EU governments in making the necessary changes to rein in their excessive debt, the more likely other countries around the world will take our actions to mean that they can delay those necessary changes. That's the worry I have. In many ways, I think, some people argue, some economists argue, we saw this during the financial crisis. The Fed took extraordinary steps to bail out Bear Stearns, but lo and behold, according to some, that sent the message to Lehman Brothers and to other much larger institutions that the federal government would not let a major bank fail. And what we saw was that in negotiations then for additional capital or for merger, there was a delay, arguably, as people looked for the same deal that J.P. Morgan got with respect to the prior bailout at Bear Stearns. So it sends the message, and I wonder if we run the risk of repeating that hypothetical moral hazard problem that some economists argue was created there with this IMF-financed backstop. Do we delay that sense of crisis that the legislature has to act now, that the left government in Greece has to produce this solution because there is no backstop, or instead do we create this false sense of security?
So let me try to distinguish our actions from, I think, the broader questions which you're raising. Our actions are addressed to forestalling a serious liquidity crisis in the short term, which has the potential for very negative effects in our own economy. I don't think that.
I understand your argument there.
So with respect to your broader question, I think there is always going to be a question about the degree to which the availability of a stabilization package or some form of assistance in a particular circumstance might create a more.
I'm running out of time. So in your opening statement, you mentioned the Fed's plan to reopen dollar swap lines with the Bank of Canada, England, Japan, ECB Bank, Swiss National Bank. But as I said earlier, many of the world's riskiest sovereign debt resides outside of the reach of these central banks, and I worry about the extent of the Fed's willingness then to assist these countries, because I wonder where this will end. Venezuela, Argentina, Pakistan, Ukraine, you look at the probability of default according to CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, did a little study on this. 48% for Venezuela, 46% for Argentina. This is during the next 5 years. Pakistan 42, Ukraine 35, Iraq 28. As we put this off, the debt problem grows, and the over-leveraging grows. If the pressure comes home to bear sooner rather than later, perhaps it's better in the international economy to have these things faced before they compound as they're now compounding?
So I would say, Mr. Royce, as I said in my prepared statement, quite apart from our swaps, which are the very limited purpose I indicated, I think there's a recognition that the broader stabilization package in the European Union is not itself a solution, and that there is a need to address the fiscal consolidation issues within the European Union. So I think some of the urgency that you feel is being reflected in the way in which markets are looking at the elaboration of the program right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.